have no idea what this video is about or what it could be about, but the title and thumbnail were intriguing. Hunting the $100 million stock market hackers. Let's go.
November 2012, Kiev, Ukraine.
Okay, not too long ago. I love the videos like this. Hey yo, what's happening? Hey yo. Oh no. Cause what are you doing? What are you doing if you're trying to unlock your door and someone opens the door for you? Nah, yeah, I think you just accept your fate. That's GG's. Who is this guy?
This is Ivan Turkniov, the top hacker for a group of Russian insider trading hedge funds raking in hundreds of millions.
Okay, never mind then. How are you gonna be a top hacker? You see, I'm gonna flip the whole script now, cause how you gonna be a top hacker in Russia? Like, you knew damn well something was gonna happen to you, and you don't invest in cameras. I mean, like, shoot, you're good with technology and everything, right? Like, you don't. I don't know. Never mind. That was like I don't know. I mean, like, USA SWAT team, because I was gonna say, I don't know, maybe that was like their Russian SWAT team, but the USA SWAT team don't take out your internet and everything. They just show up, right? I don't know.
Millions of dollars every year. He's just been arrested by a team of Ukrainian intelligence service officials.
My fault, they're in Ukraine. That's right. My fault. Guys, look, when I saw Ukraine, I just instantly thought of Russia. My fault.
And American Secret Service agents. Nonetheless, the people he works for are so well connected
Secret
to the
Service
Ukrainian authorities that instead of going to prison, he's let free only a few days later, while the American agents are forced to leave the country.
What?
The U.S.
Hold on, is that supposed to be Keanu Reeves? What's his name? John Wick?
Doesn't like to get played, and as such, begins one of the wildest manhunts for a massive
Oh, no
network of
way.
hackers, corrupt officials, insider traders, and millions upon millions of illegally obtained dollars.
Oh, he's literally John Wick.
This is the story of Egg PLC, and the biggest insider trading hack the U.S. has ever seen. This video is
Insiders?
sponsored by NordPass, but more on that later.
I was about to say we skipping, but nah, he said
Financial
later.
compensation available
Okay, but I do gotta skip
Maui
this.
residents who were near the Lahaina fire. If you
Sorry guys, I live in Hawaii.
Late 2009,
Either big trucker
somewhere in
sounds.
Ukraine. This is Ivan Turkniov.
2009,
He's 21
Ukraine.
years old, and like most people his age, he wants to make money, and he wants it fast. However, after the 2008
I know how it
financial
feels. That's
crash,
why I'm right
young
here.
Ukrainians like Ivan weren't able to find work easily, so he spends a lot of time online, specifically on Russian cybercrime forums. Every now and then, he joins up with some people on the forum to do small
I don't know. I feel like our generation, a good bit of us had a phase where we wanted to be hackers, or like we at least thought it was cool. Like we heard of those white hat hackers, like what's their names for the government? Or I don't know if they actually work for the government, but Anonymous. It's like we all heard of Anonymous and thought about how cool that would be to be you. I feel like the only thing with being a hacker is that you don't get enough of the spotlight. Like, yeah, I don't know.
hacks here and there. But this
You
night,
just don't get the
something
attention
was
like a
different.
celebrity.
While he's going through job postings, he comes across an advertisement by someone called Egg PLC. He's looking for hackers to infiltrate brokerage accounts and brokerage firms, and most importantly, he's willing to pay
Can you really just openly post that?
well. Ivan thinks this might be an easy job and contacts Egg PLC. But what he doesn't know is that what he thinks to be a simple job would turn into a massive financial fraud operation. A scheme so big, it would be considered the biggest insider trading cybercrime
Oh,
scandal
no, wait.
the world
I
has
see. So
ever
that's
seen.
why. Like, poor little dude wasn't even supposed to be
February 26th,
in the position he was in.
2010. Kiev, Ukraine.
Okay, so this is 2
It's a
years
cold
before.
morning, and while Ukraine's capital is slowly waking up, one person has been wide awake all night. It's Ivan Turkniov, and he's currently pacing around his
He's
bedroom.
tripping.
He's nervous because his first job for Egg PLC is supposed to go down today, and he really wants the money. Suddenly, the phone beeps. It's a message from his new boss, and it contains the name of his first target. Ivan quickly fires up his PC and gets to work. His first method of attack is using SQL injections, so he begins by
I know
scanning
SQL
for
queries.
MarketWire.com URLs to find exploitable weaknesses. To keep it short, SQL injection is a way for hackers to exploit flaws in
Like how
how
I said, I
websites
think we all went
interact
through
with
this
databases.
phase, so
By injecting
I have a
malicious
little bit of
SQL
coding in my
code into
background.
input fields like search bars, login forms, or even URL parameters. They can trick the system into executing unauthorized commands. This might allow access to login credentials,
Okay, you
unpublished
see, now I
press
didn't know it did all
releases,
that.
or even full dumps of back-end databases.
Now that's kind
In
of
simple
nuts.
terms, hackers use SQL injection to make websites do things they were never meant to do and expose data that was never meant to be seen. But back to Ivan. He found some vulnerabilities and managed to get his hands on a few unreleased documents related to some of the biggest US companies. He saved as many as he
way.
could and uploaded them to a server operated by Egg plc. A few hundred miles away, somewhere in Russia, Egg plc meets with a private group of Russian and Ukrainian traders.
Okay, sorry, my headset died. Whoopsie.
This group allegedly includes a man called Pavel Dubovoy, a member of a wealthy Ukrainian family, and someone who will play a massive role in the future. But for now, this group of traders goes through all of the hacked press releases. They discover that several companies are about to release positive news and place a series of long trades. Either way, after the weekend passes, the stolen press releases are published by MarketWire, and the global market begins to trade based on that information. Meanwhile, Egg plc and his group of traders watch their money increase every second, and just a few hours after the market opens, all of them close their positions.
Wait.
First operation was a complete success, and Ivan was paid 40% of the profits each trader made. It was a
No
big
shit.
payday for everyone involved, but this was just the beginning of a generational insider trading ring.
Wait, what?
Early 2011, Atlanta, United States. It's early in the morning when Arkady Dubovoy and his business partner, Alexander Garkusha, both working for Pavel Dubovoy, are inside a restaurant at Atlanta Airport. They're meeting with a man named Vitaly Korchevsky, a wealthy ex-Morgan Stanley
Vitaly.
portfolio manager and a truly massive figure in Philadelphia's Russian-speaking evangelical
Sorry.
Baptist community. He's a pastor, owns his own church, and has helped hundreds of immigrant families build stable lives, often letting them live in his own houses, helping them find jobs, and providing whatever
Okay, we're back. Let's try this shit again.
else they might need. But today, he's not there for church-related matters. Instead, he's strictly there to discuss a deal with the two businessmen. They explain that they have a great investment opportunity for Vitaly and show him a few printed press releases, claiming they obtained them before they were officially released. But Vitaly is unimpressed. All the releases have already been published. Thinking the two are talking nonsense, he simply walks away. And this was bad. They just told a pastor that they potentially had access to insider information, and if he talked, the entire scheme could fall apart. 2011, Georgia, United States. Over the
I'm like kind of following along,
next
kind
few
of not
days,
really. I
Arkady
think it's
pushes
making sense
Vitaly
to
for
me.
another meeting, but when they finally meet again, it doesn't go according to plan. The server with the hacked press releases is inaccessible.
Oh,
It simply
shoot.
doesn't work. And
He's gonna
Vitaly
deny
is
him again.
extremely pissed off. And even though he's had enough of the two, he agrees to one final meeting. During this meeting,
Third
Ivan,
time's the
the
charm.
hacker, and Egg plc, the ringleader, made sure that everything worked, and Vitaly was finally able to see that the two men weren't lying. In front of him were hundreds of unreleased press releases, and all he had to do to access them was to use a trading account under Arkady's name and pay a percentage of his winning trades to Arkady, who then split it with the rest of the group. The pastor looks at the two men and, after a moment of silence, agrees to participate in their scheme. August 3rd, 2011, Philadelphia, United States.
Okay, wait, I'm getting it. I'm
It's
getting it.
3:50 p.m. when Vitaly, the pastor, enters the lobby
Day one.
Oh my god, bro.
month
They're
three,
milking me for the
month
monies.
six. Forever. These
At least it's not my
milestones
money.
of his apartment building. Suddenly, his phone rings. He receives news that a drug developed by Dendreon Pharmaceuticals, a California-based biotech company, will not meet expected sales. It's a massive
It's gonna go down.
but the market
Shorts.
closes in just 7 minutes.
Oh.
Korchevsky quickly logs into his trading account and, within seconds, purchases
Throws up a
1,100
short.
put options on the biotech company. This means that if the company's stock value drops, he stands to make a
yes.
profit. And only 1 minute later, at 4:01 p.m., the company announced the bad news. The next day, just as the markets opened, Forbes published an article about it, leading the stock to plummet almost 70%
That's
in a few hours.
massive.
And Vitaly's profit is a sweet 2.3 million US dollars, of which he had to pay 230,000 to Arcady. And this commission really bothered Vitaly, who decided to open a few other accounts under other people's names to avoid paying commissions to the rest of the group.
Oh, this
a
smart
move that will
fuck.
lead to serious consequences in the future.
Oh.
But Vitaly Korchevsky was just
Unsmart
one of
fuck.
many traders who had been recruited and were paying commissions to Arkady and his brother Pavel Dubovoy. They were making hundreds
what?
of thousands in commissions every month. On the other hand, Egg PLC and Valerie, who we'll mention later,
I was
were
about to
making
say,
even
who's
more
Valerie?
since Pavel Dubovoy was just one of his many middlemen. And Ivan Turkniov,
Yo,
the hacker breaking into
what?
press release companies, who was not only using SQL attacks anymore and had completely transformed his life. From living in a small, old apartment, he went to living in a mansion in Kiev's ultra-wealthy district,
How do you like buy this though without them asking where the fuck your money came from?
Konkazaspa, bought supercars, and sat on an almost
Excuse me.
comical amount of money,
Excuse me,
all
excuse
while
me,
he
excuse me.
supposedly didn't have a job. The gang was truly living their best lives, but what none of them knew was that everything was about to change.
No, actually though, yeah, you can't get away with that without like cleaning the money, no?
Kiev, Ukraine. It's a warm spring night in the capital of Ukraine when the now 24-year-old Ivan Turkniov is partying with a bunch of his friends. But they're not just normal people. All of them are talented cybercriminals who met in Ukraine's pretty big cybercrime scene. But in the middle of bottles, smoke, and beautiful women, Ivan, in a drunken boast, makes a crucial mistake.
Oh no, does he
reveals
tell
that
them?
He's been making hundreds of thousands by hacking into press release distribution services, stealing unpublished
he got
information,
drunk.
and giving it to a mysterious figure known only as Egg PLC. All
He
of
got
the
drunk
people
and
at the
told him.
table are already drunk and simply congratulate him about it. All of them except for one. Alexander Laramenko is completely sober and gets envious of Ivan. He
Oh,
wants
no
in on the
shot.
scheme and a big chunk of Ivan's business.
Hey yo.
A few days after Alexander
Is he at
overheard
his
Ivan's
house?
drunken boast, he meets
No.
up with another hacker named Vadim Lermolovich. That night, Alexander explains that he wants a piece of the pie, but needs Vadim's help to pull it off. Eventually, Vadim agrees, but he also knows that Ivan won't invite them into the scheme willingly. And this means that there's only one possible solution.
DSU is
To hack
Ivan.
Business Wire themselves, but not to steal any data. Instead, it's to locate Ivan's malware and take control of it.
Oh
Luckily
shit.
for them, Alexander has worked with Ivan on a few small hacks before, so he understands his workflow and knows how to find Ivan's malware.
What
There was
the
just
fuck?
one issue. They still had to get into Business Wire's network first, and this wouldn't be an easy task.
I don't even want to pause
Either
it to
way,
talk
the
because this
two
is
fire
actually
up their
mind blowing.
computers and get to work. They spent the entire night trying to access Business Wire's systems, and after dozens of energy drinks and cigarettes, they finally found their way inside. Once they did, Alexander searched for Ivan's RAT, a remote access Trojan that enables the attacker to take control of a computer. And since Ivan's rats usually followed the same patterns, Alexander found it relatively quickly.
He knew which one to look
Next,
for.
the two most likely redirected the rats' command
guys,
and
I'm
control traffic to their
I'll pause it right now. I'm gonna play it after, but I just want to let you guys know I'm gonna load one up, smoke it and everything. So I don't know. This is a really good video, and yeah, I feel like I just enjoy it more if I'm high.
their own servers, or outright modified the rat's configuration, which effectively cut off Ivan's access to Business Wire's servers. Finally, they contacted Egg PLC, most likely through communication methods he used on cybercrime forums, and explained that if they weren't let into the scheme, access to Business Wire would remain under their control permanently. It was a flawless act of betrayal against Ivan. Yet, if Egg PLC refused to let them into the operation, Alexander and Vadim would be in serious danger. Every hour without a response from Egg PLC stretched painfully longer, and just as they were resigning themselves to having made the biggest mistake of their lives, a notification popped up on one of their PCs. It was from Egg PLC.
No way.
Luckily for the two, Egg PLC agreed to bring them into the operation, but on one condition. They had to work alongside Ivan and help expand the operation. Obviously, Ivan wasn't happy about one of his supposed friends double-crossing him, because, after all, this meant splitting the profits with two new partners. But little did Ivan know that splitting his money was only the start of a series of disastrous events for both him, his team, and the entire operation.
Your guys' downstem ever get stuck and it's like the worst thing ever?
United States.
Yeah, shit just happened to me.
This is an employee of Strauss Friedberg, a private cybersecurity
Damn, but they got in.
and he just arrived at PR Newswire's headquarters. Apparently, the U.S. authorities noticed suspicious trading patterns related to some of their press releases and told PR Newswire to hire some IT specialist for a checkup. Once the IT expert enters the office,
They're
he
onto
quickly
it.
gets to work and notices dozens of different
Someone's
malicious
been looking at our
programs
shit.
installed on their machines and networks. It was truly a cesspool of malware, suggesting that Egg PLC wasn't the only one running an insider trading operation.
Oh, no shit.
These companies made huge mistakes by getting phished and had keyloggers record every password they typed, something that could have been prevented by today's sponsor.
Oh, okay. Oh my god, they really are milking. Bro, ad and ad? Or sponsor and ad?
NordPass. It's because NordPass even keeps can't see forgive your email. Once you set it up,
Oh my god, how far do we have to go? Oh, sorry guys. Alright, I'm sick. And then, yeah, that bongi just like, I was just coughing for like 3 minutes straight.
March 2012, Kiev, Ukraine. Ivan Turkniov arrives back home, turns on his PC, and starts to access
A little
the
bit more.
different compromised press release systems.
We're good.
Everything is as usual. He finds a few new releases and uploads them to Egg PLC's server. But when he tries to log into PR Newswire's system, he can't. The login details don't work, and when he tries to access through his RAT, it simply doesn't respond. His access
Oh, he's figuring it out.
cut off.
He's
Even
figuring
worse,
it out that
the
they
only
figured it
reason
out.
that anyone would clean up PR Newswire was that some of the traders were being too obvious with their trades. Ivan's next move is to notify Egg PLC, to whom he explains that his clients are making a serious fuss and that they should be careful.
They're making a
Next,
fuss.
Ivan alerts the rest of the hackers, and they're really worried. They know they've been discovered, and if anyone manages to trace the traffic back to them,
they
they'd be
know
in
for
serious trouble. But despite the growing risk, Egg PLC forces them to continue. He demands they regain access to PR Newswire at all costs, a move that would put everyone in danger. Because while they did regain access, someone was
I'm so
quietly
sorry.
watching their
This guy
every
from the
move
beginning,
from
John Wick.
inside PRN servers.
Oh my god, I'm sorry.
June
Alright, we're here.
2012, Kiev Airport, Ukraine. It's early in the morning when two
Oh,
men in
John
black
Wick's back.
suits arrive at the
Oh wait,
Kiev
yeah.
airport.
I'm stupid.
They are quickly
Wait,
greeted by a
'cause
contingent
we went back
of
in
well-dressed
time.
men and women who escort them to a blacked-out SUV. The two men are members of the U.S. Secret Service, and they're in Ukraine on a
stupid.
special mission. They've managed to track down a bunch of cybercriminals to Kiev and are requesting assistance from the Ukrainian intelligence service, one of the most capable, yet also one of the most corrupt agencies in the world. A fact that will play a major role later on.
I didn't know that
Apparently,
Ukraine
the
was like
Secret
that though with
Service,
the
supported by the
cyber
SEC,
things.
managed to trace hacks against PR Newswire and MarketWired to a few different addresses in Kiev, and 3 of those addresses belong to none other than Ivan Turkniov,
Oh, are you
Vadim
serious?
Lermolovich, and Alexander Leremenko.
So the 3 hackers
Either way,
were just
the
like
Ukrainians agree to help
little
and
loose.
begin surveilling the 3 suspects and their circle of friends. That's when they realize that all of them, even their friends, are between 20 and 26-year-old and don't have any jobs, but somehow have an apparently
Excuse me.
unlimited amount of money. It quickly becomes clear that the entire group is making money illegally, and thus, the authorities decide to make their first move. November 2012, Kiev, Ukraine. In the police station, 9 teams get ready to carry out raids all over the city. They know that they have to time everything perfectly, immobilize their targets as soon as possible, and prevent them from getting their hands on any of their devices. The teams are made up mostly of Ukrainian police and US agents, both familiar with hacking-related criminals. But even though they're experienced, they know it won't be easy and understand that resistance is extremely possible.
Oh, okay, so now we're back at like the beginning, right? I get it now. I see, so he knew that they knew. Okay, wait, just a little bit more before the good part. Okay, now I for real think that was it. Freeze! Get down! Do you know who I... I'll translate all the Ukrainian parts for you guys.
Hitting your goals has nothing
Bro,
to
they
do
really
the real
really
culprit
milking
is
with this
friction
video.
that slowly erodes your progress. Unless
At the end of the operation, law enforcement managed to
9
arrest
raids,
9
9
individuals
arrests.
and confiscated several computers belonging to Yvonne's gang. On these devices, they find hundreds
Dang,
of
they
stolen
label it
press
as
releases.
Yvonne's gang
And
now.
even better, chat logs directly talking about the scheme. And you'd think that this is where the story ends, right? However, this is where it gets extremely complicated. You see,
Wait.
everyone who had been hacking with Ivan Turkniov was arrested and identified, but when questioned, they all said the same thing. They didn't work for Ivan Turkniov.
Yeah,
Instead,
'cause he-
they claimed to be working for someone called Egg PLC.
Right, yeah,
There was
he's
just
not the
one
leader.
problem.
It's not
None
his
of the
gang.
hackers
It's
actually
Egg's.
knew who Egg PLC was. The only person who did
Egg
know
did
was
well.
Pavel Dubovoi, someone who, at that point, wasn't on the radar of either the US or Ukrainian authorities. In any event, the US agents believed that they could somehow connect the dots from the hackers to Egg PLC. And after
Who's
a few
Valerie?
days of investigating the arrested hackers, they found something interesting. Apparently, Ivan had bank accounts in Estonia, and one of his accounts received $95,000 from a Ukrainian construction company linked to a man called Arkady Dubovoi, who interestingly resided in the US. But this wasn't the only thing they found. Inside of the chat logs and emails, there were messages from someone called Pavel Dubovoi, and these messages contained
so
a
this
list
is-
of US companies that were planning to release their earnings reports
this
after
is
the stock
crazy.
market closed, and orders to get his hands on these documents to upload them to a shared server. After these details were discovered by both the Americans and the Ukrainians, things started to get extremely weird. For whatever reason, the suspect stopped talking, and the Ukrainian authorities allegedly declined to help with any further investigations. All of this eventually culminated in the Ukrainians dropping charges against all of the hackers and concluding the investigation into the
Holy
gang.
shit, who's Egg PLC?
Apparently, the Ukrainian intelligence service, or a small department inside of it, cut a deal with Ivan Turkniov. This deal included Ivan giving up over $500,000 in watches, his house, and deal included Ivan giving up over $500,000 in watches,
only
his
$500,000?
house, and his sports cars. But most interesting was the last part of the deal. He had to start working for the Ukrainian intelligence service himself and give their members access to all of the press releases he hacked for Egg PLC.
Oh fuck, so
return,
now
Ivan
Ukraine
and his
wants to
friends were
hack
let free
America.
and allowed to continue whatever operation they were doing with Egg PLC. It's unknown what exactly happened, but it's possible that the only reason the
Excuse me.
charges were dropped is because Pavel Dubovoi, Arkady's brother, and let's not forget a member of an extremely influential Ukrainian family, pulled some strings to secure the release of Ivan and the other hackers. You see, Pavel is known to have ties to both Alexander Turkniov, the former head of Ukraine's
that?
intelligence service, and Alexander Dubovoi, a prominent Ukrainian politician and member of the Dubovoi family.
Are you
And while
fucking
there's no
serious?
concrete evidence, it's possible that one of them made a call to have the hackers released. This
Oh my
part
god.
is truly murky. But
Dude,
one
their
thing was
family
for
is
sure.
deep.
The U.S. Secret Service, FBI, and the SEC really didn't like it. But since they weren't allowed to pursue any
Holy
further
shit.
action against the hackers inside of Ukraine, the team had to leave the country knowing that their targets were still free and most likely still hacking. On the other hand, they at least got a new target, Pavel Dubovoy, a person that would most likely
And
get
he's
them closer
in
to
America.
PLC. Even better, all the hackers had been identified, and even though they weren't in US custody, the Secret Service wouldn't give up on them and began waiting for the perfect moment to grab them.
Don't tell me they tried to come to America, bruh.
November 2014, Cancun, Mexico. It's a beautiful day in a Cancun resort while
Some nice
Vadim
animations,
Lormolovich,
my
one
friend.
of the members of Ivan's hacking team, is relaxing at the pool. The sun is shining, his drink is fresh, and he's simply loving life. Later that day, he goes to a restaurant with his girlfriend, where the two have an amazing dinner. But seconds after he
Nice.
pays for the food, a group of Mexican law enforcement officials suddenly storm the restaurant. They ignore everyone, go straight to Vadim, and arrest him on the spot. At the same time, a different group of officers break into his hotel room to
Oh,
confiscate
fuck.
all of his devices.
Wait, so who is this
Vadim
guy?
committed the one cardinal mistake, leaving Ukraine as a wanted U.S. criminal. Interestingly,
What
nobody
happened?
in Mexico really knew him, which opens the question of who alerted the Mexicans about him being there in the first place. Either way, the Mexican authorities quickly informed him that he wasn't welcome in their country and that they'd send him straight back to Ukraine. But once Vadim arrives at the airport, he's loaded into a plane with only a few other people inside. Something seems weird, but after
wait,
all,
what?
a plane is a plane, he thinks. But still, during the first few hours of the flight, he can't get that weird feeling out of his mind. Something seems strange. Then, only a few hours into the flight,
Ladies and gentlemen, we're starting our descent. Please fasten your seatbelts.
they're landing. And it's not in Ukraine. That's when Vadim realizes what's going on.
What?
He panics, and while he looks around, he notices that one of the passengers is looking straight at him and has an earpiece. Then, when the airplane finally lands, the pilot announces the destination. Welcome to the United States city of Dallas, and as your pilot, I wish all of you a great time.
Wait,
Suddenly,
what?
everyone inside the airplane stands up, looks at Vadim, and announces that they're all members of the Secret Service, and that Vadim is now on U.S. soil, which means that he's going straight to jail.
How
For
did
almost
they?
2 years, the Secret Service had been monitoring everyone who had been detained during the Kiev raids in 2012. And of course, they were simply waiting for them to slip up. And most likely, it was U.S. authorities that alerted the Mexicans about his stay in Cancun. Interestingly, though, there was no official extradition from the Mexican authorities, which means that someone in Mexico did the U.S. a favor by putting Vadim in a flight that coincidentally had a layover in the
Wait.
U.S. And of course,
Oh, it
letting
was a
U.S.
layover.
agents onto the plane before it even took off. Ironically,
Oh, I'm
Vadim was
stupid.
first
A
saved by
layover,
corrupt
duh.
officials in Ukraine, only to be arrested by a different set of corrupt officials in Mexico, who, unlike the Ukrainians, seemed to be allied with the U.S. Secret Service. Either
Wait.
way, Vadim was now in U.S.
That
custody.
is actually kind of
and he
funny.
knew a lot. The only question was whether he'd talk. But that wasn't even the
Dude,
worst blow
this
to
is so
EGPLC's
like
operation.
this is like a
Back
movie,
in
bro. All the
Ukraine,
twists and
Pavel
turns.
Dubovoy had apparently gone rogue and
Dubovoy
started
again?
to secretly sell press releases behind EGPLC's back, something that would force EGPLC to finally step out of the shadows.
Oh,
Late 2014, somewhere in
oh
Russia.
shit. Wait, so we are in Russia now.
Late at night, EGPLC is sitting in his home. It's raining
Yo, he looked
outside,
like Tommy
and he can't
Shelby.
sleep. He knows
JK.
about the raids, has been notified about Lermolovich's arrest and
maybe
about
a
the
little.
Dubovoy's secret operation, but doesn't know what to do. A few sleepless hours later, he decides to directly contact Pavel Dubovoy, to whom he explains that he knows about his rogue operation and that as of today, both him and his brother Arkady are permanently cut off of the scheme. But he adds that if they wanted back in, they need to meet him in Ukraine in person. Now, under pressure from the ringleader, Pavel quickly arranged for his brother to come to Ukraine, and once he was there, a meeting between someone named Valerie, who may in fact be EGPLC, and the two Dubovoy brothers took place in January 2015. During this meeting, the brothers were offered to regain access to the press releases by paying a deposit of $300,000 on top of another $100,000 per week member fee. These sums were too high for the Dubovoy brothers, who declined the offer. But even though they declined to officially regain access to the press releases, they wouldn't give up their access to free money so easily and tried using a different, though far riskier, path.
Introducing.
I see. So Valerie kicked him out his servers, basically, right? It's basically what happened. Started charging him a subscription fee. They
Things are
said
getting
nah.
complicated at this point, so let's recap for a second. At this point, it's early 2015. The group was created in 2009.
Random thought. I wonder how much users YouTube would lose if they just started saying you have to use YouTube Premium or no YouTube. I feel like no one would use YouTube no more.
By Valerie and Egg PLC, who recruited Ivan Turkniov.
I know
and
that that would
later
never
his hacking
happen, but,
acquaintances
you know.
to infiltrate press release companies. Of these hackers, all have been identified, forced to work with Ukrainian intelligence services, and one of them has been arrested in Mexico before being sent to the US. Next, there were dozens upon dozens of traders and hedge funds paying middlemen.
Alright guys,
such
my
as the
headset is
Dubovoy
dying. My
brothers,
headset is dying.
for
We
access to
gotta
unreleased
get through
press
this video.
releases. These middlemen would then provide their clients, for example, U.S. Pastor Vitaly Korchevsky, with trading accounts registered under the middleman's names. These accounts are then topped off with money from the customer. This is done so the middlemen can see how much money each of their customers made and easily take
So
their
basically they just reinforce
These
the
accounts
system.
were then also analyzed by Egg PLC and his team to make sure that the middlemen, such as the Dubovoy brothers, paid the proper commission to Egg PLC and the hackers. But because the Dubovoys had gone rogue, Egg PLC completely cut them off the scheme, so everyone else recruited by the Dubovoys, such as Vitaly Korchevsky, was now also out of the game. Nevertheless,
Oh wait, never mind. They
Pavel
were
had
just
been involved in
explaining
the scheme
the.
since its beginning, and thus
Never
knew
mind.
a few other people who also became middlemen under Egg PLC. One of these people was Valery Pichenko, the husband of one of Pavel's family members. And even
Wait,
though
so
it's
Valerie
unknown exactly
isn't-
what happened, Valerie started to secretly send relevant press releases to the Dubovoys. The Dubovoys were now playing a dangerous game, and if their
I
involvement
see.
was
So maybe
discovered,
Egg
they'd be in
PLC
serious
wasn't
danger.
running.
Even worse, the
a
U.S.
big
had
ring.
made substantial progress in their investigation by linking Arkady Dubovoy, his construction company, and Pavel Dubovoy to the Ukrainian hackers. But this wasn't all. Apparently, they also found a bunch of trading accounts registered under the Dubovoy.
Alright guys, I'm back. I'm sorry, my headset died last night, so I just decided to go to sleep. It's the next morning.
And all.
I paused
Apparently,
it.
they also
We're
found a
here.
bunch of trading accounts registered under the Dubovoy brothers' name.
Oh my god, and they're milking me for the money already.
Hard work.
But yeah, I'm sorry about that guys. Here we go.
Names, and these were extremely suspicious. First of all, they were being funded by overseas shell companies, and secondly, they were trading an
Wait, let me just double check. Okay, yeah, we are recording good. We're recording good.
extremely suspicious pattern which perfectly matched insider information trading patterns. Interestingly, even some of the Dubovoy straw companies had trading accounts, which followed the same patterns of strange funding and insider trading. At that time, the authorities discovered over 34 of these accounts, which totaled over 100 million US dollars in profit, and
Damn.
obviously a win rate that was simply impossible.
So they made at least like 10
There were
million then,
probably
right?
more accounts that the
If
authorities
they're taking
didn't
10%.
find, but they knew that Arkady, as well as several of the people logging into these accounts, were residing in the U.S. It was the
Right. They're in the
opportunity to
US.
strike. August 11th,
Oh,
2000.
they was living like a little
Georgia,
perfect white
United
family.
States.
Okay, that was. I'm sorry.
At 5 a.m., Arkady Dubovoy.
Dang, why
wakes
is it so
up in his
bright at 5
mansion.
a.m.?
He walks to the bathroom to get into the shower.
Never mind,
But as
we
he
in the
walks
house.
through the hallway, he notices a bunch of cars stopping in front of his house.
Oh
Suddenly,
no.
he hears the back door of his house being smashed open. He knows that he's messed up, and that right now, there's nothing he can do anymore. The authorities arrest him
Just
and
accepts
his
his
son
fate.
without any resistance. But they're not alone. At the same time, several other arrests are happening all over the U.S., and one
Oh,
of them
shoot.
is none other than Pastor Vitaly Korchevsky, who is arrested in his Philadelphia home. The Dubovoy group in the U.S. was falling apart. Everyone was being arrested, tons of electronics were being confiscated, and dozens of homes were being searched for evidence.
Dang.
In Ukraine, Pavel Dubovoy, the head of the Dubovoy Group, was informed about these events and immediately initiated his emergency plan. He grabbed a few thousand in cash, a fake Russian passport, and jumped into a blacked-out car that drove him straight towards Belarus. He knew that this moment marked the end of the Ukrainian Dubovoy operation, which netted the group over 100 million US dollars. Pavel had truly screwed up. The US knew who he was, and if word about him continuing the secret insider scheme with Egg PLC's documents came out, Egg PLC would probably hunt him down as well. Pavel had to go underground, at least for a while. At this point,
I was gonna say,
everything
who?
gets messy again.
Yeah,
It seems
who
as if the
still
entire
is Egg
Ukrainian part of
PLC?
operation came to an end, and Ivan Turkniov, the hacker who
Sorry,
had been
guys.
working for both Egg PLC
Right,
and
Ivan, the real,
elements of
like the beginning G,
Ukrainian
the first G.
intelligence service, seemed to have been cut off as well. This is because a few months later, Ivan, who probably needed money, was hired by a conglomerate of Ukrainian companies to hack into the country's fiscal service database.
Well, no, they probably told him, dude, we're gonna lock you up again if you don't work for our government again. I don't think it had to do anything with money.
There, he altered the tax
If he wanted money, he knew what he had to do. He wouldn't be working with the government.
information of his clients to most likely pay less in taxes. Unluckily for
Oh,
him,
wait, never
companies
mind.
to hack into the who probably needed money,
Wait.
was hired by a conglomerate of Ukrainian companies to hack into the country's
Oh,
fiscal service database.
okay, no, so he,
There,
never
altered
mind.
The tax information
He did
of his
do what I
clients
said
to
then.
most
Never
likely
mind.
pay
He
less
did
in
need money.
taxes. Unluckily for him, the authorities found out.
I'm closing
and
this
this
door.
time
I'm sorry about the
crime was
chickens.
conducted inside of Ukraine's territory, which meant that he was now fair game, and he knew this. Ivan
Oh,
takes
dang.
everything he needs and drives straight into Ukraine's eastern war zone. From there, he crosses into Russia, where he most likely met Egg PLC, and has since simply vanished. Another important person, the
Oh.
last free hacker, Alexander Leremenko, was still in Ukraine, and he too seems to have been cut off from Egg PLC. This is because after the group's collapse in 2000,
Well, he wasn't supposed to be there, right?
Started to work for Artemy.
No, wait,
a well
he was. No, he wasn't, because Oleg is like one of the ones that like just
well-connected businessman from
slipped his way in there because he was
Artemy
envious,
founded
right?
Benjamin Capital Group, a UK-registered company that served merely as a front for individuals seeking to buy insider information, which, as you might think, was stolen by hacking into newswire services. Essentially, it was the same operation as Egg PLC's, but without Egg PLC or the Dubovoys, and instead of a three-person
he just
hacking
started his
team,
own
it was
ring.
carried out solely by Alexander. Interestingly, while working for Artemy, Alexander learned how to infiltrate the SEC's Edgar system,
Oh,
which is
fuck.
the primary database
Isn't
where
that kinda
public
huge?
companies file their financial reports and disclosures.
That's
By
pretty
hacking into
huge.
Edgar, Alexander could access sensitive, non-public information before it became widely available, which helped Artemy's
shit.
clients make money by, of course, illegal inside.
Were you anywhere near
Oh,
the
shit.
Lahaina fire when it
No,
happened?
no.
If you were near the
Move.
devastating August
insider trading. Artemy didn't seem as professional as Egg PLC. Instead of paying everyone, he kept all the money for a luxurious lifestyle and didn't even pay
Oh,
the
no
staff
way.
he hired to maintain the appearance of legitimate
See, at
business.
least Egg
Nor
PLC was a
Alexander,
G.
who started to get tired of
He
his
ran a
boss's
real company.
shenanigans. But sadly for him, the situation got dark very quickly. He wanted to leave this operation after about a year, but Artemy kept him working there under threats of violence. Because, after all, Alexander didn't have Egg PLC, Ivan Turkniov, nor the Dubovoy family's protection
Oh,
anymore.
shit.
He had been left completely alone. Things eventually got so bad that Artemy's company got a bad reputation for squandering its clients' money, and some of these clients tried to poach Alexander for their own insider trading operations. However, when Artemy got wind of this, he hired thugs to beat up Alexander multiple times, and according to the Ukrainian cybersecurity chief, he might have even been killed.
Oh,
The other possibility is that some of these wealthy clients helped Alexander escape to Russia, where he'd continue his work, but in complete secrecy. Interestingly, an indictment from 2019 claims that Alexander is
Oh.
actually still alive, and
His
as you
name.
might guess, still hacking into newswires and the SEC's Edgar system, but this time for a Hong Kong-based investing company called Spirit
Hong
Trade
Kong?
Limited, which was led by a bunch of people living in the US, Russia, Asia, and Ukraine.
oh, what the
This could
fuck?
mean that someone successfully poached him from Artemy, But it's also interesting that this indictment lists Alexander's residence as Kiev, Ukraine, because given Artemy's threats to Alexander, this might
Why would
not
he still be
accurate
there?
anymore.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, Alexander Leremenko, like Ivan Turkniov, simply vanished. Their story
Yo.
stands as a powerful example of how a few young, talented men, initially just trying to make a living, found themselves on the wrong path. Perhaps they had no other way to earn significant money, and once that money flowed, things began to take unexpected turns.
Nah, this was a
Many
nuts
people
story
getting
though.
hurt or landing in prison. For example, the group that was arrested in the US ended up completely
Bro, I wish
fractured, with everyone
we could get like a story like this on Malone. That would be so sick.
pointing fingers at each other and people snitching left and right. Obviously, all of them also ended up in prison, and even though the sentences vary from person to person, the lowest
I have
one,
to
which
sneeze.
was given to Arkady and Igor Dubovoy, was of 6 months and 3 years of supervised release. On the other hand, Vitaly Korchevsky got 5 years in prison and destroyed not only his own image, but also that of his church and its followers.
Right, pastor.
His case is particularly sad because he used a lot of the illicit gains to help his community by buying homes for families without a credit score, and many of
Aww.
these people will now be without any help. Even
Aww.
Pavel Dubovoy, who most likely made tens of millions and wasn't caught in the US, had to flee his home country for a few years before returning in 2017, where he was immediately involved in another massive controversy in which Ukraine's anti-corruption bureau accused him of offering $500,000 to help with a case involving a frozen bank account. Truly, there are only 2 winners in this story, Egg PLC and Valerie, who might even be the same
Nah,
person,
Egg
but have
PLC is a
managed to become
G.
extremely wealthy, with estimates of the profits going up into the hundreds of millions of dollars, all while remaining anonymous. And most importantly, without doing too much dangerous work. And even though there are theories about who they are, nobody is truly sure about their identities. Finally, don't forget that day trading is 99% a scam, where the only people that make money are insiders, HFTs, and a handful of people who feel the market.
Oh, that's
So
really
stay
cool.
away.
Day trading lessons. Gifted outliers. Oh, that was actually a really sick video. Nah, that was really cool, guys. But yeah, like how he said, no. Stick to crypto. I'm just kidding. But yeah, no. I do see what he's saying though, because like yeah, if the stock market's filled with that much insider trading, and if they're raking in like millions on millions on millions on millions, it's like, bro, you and your $100 stand no chance. Like, I don't know. That is just crazy. But I hope you guys enjoyed. That was a good video, and yeah, catch you guys in the next one. Oh, you're still here. Well, that must mean you must have liked the video, so thank you. I appreciate it. I'm still new to YouTube, so click on any one of these ones. I'm not too sure where it is. Might be right in front of me. I'm planning on making a Discord channel for you guys, so check the description, see if the invite link is there, so we can talk, maybe game together, smoke together. I don't know, whatever it is. But yeah, I love you guys all. You're very beautiful humans, individuals, and yeah, until next time.